Here we are on a Sunday morning, and a nice Sunday at that before the cold air comes in as we move through this week. Looks like a chilly week ahead after we get through Monday with some minor interruptions and some showers. Actually, most of the weather around the United States is on the quiet side. And we are going to, of course, address that in our usual over the top way right here on today's Joe and Joe Weather Show, which, of course, as we all know, is brought to you by Omni True Value Hardware at 1226 North Wellwood Avenue in West Babylon, New York, serving the entire New York, New Jersey tri-state area with everything you need this fall and this coming winter because the rock salt is there and ready for. Might want to put some away if we wind up getting some early winter weather, and of course, making your yard look terrific as we head into peak fall color with some new mulch or topsoil. And you always want to be ready in case there's some adverse weather with making sure that your supplies to dealing with adverse weather, like batteries, generators, and all the rest of it, is all ready to go. 631 756 1125. The best prices anywhere in the tri state area, and that includes the big box stores. The website, of course, as we all know, is
OmniTrueValue.com. And Joe, people ask, which holiday, not holiday, which season do you dread? Which season do you think is the absolute worst? Is it fall or is it winter? And a lot of people would say winter. I hate the ice. I hate the snow. I hate the threat of slipping and sliding every which way. I, on the other hand, say fall. And I say fall for this reason. If after a big snowfall, I go outside with my snowblower and blow away all the snow and clear away my driveway and, open everything up, it may be days, many days, before I have to worry about a significant snowfall, which would need to be, take out the snowblower once again. In other words, I don't have to worry after a major snowfall. In the fall, however, case in point, Friday afternoon, I was out there for almost an hour with the leaf blower blowing away all the leaves, which covered both my front and backyard like an orange carpet. And I said, okay, that's done. And this morning when I looked outside and looked at my backyard, it was as if I did absolutely nothing. And there is still a ton of leaves on many of the trees that still have yet to turn and yet to fall. This is going to be a never ending. It's almost like every single day you can look outside and it's as if you didn't do anything the day before. I hate fall. I don't care about the pretty colors. I don't care about all the leaf peepers. I just hate fall. And there you go.
okay. Well, you've got your opinion. Now I'm going to give you mine.
Yes.
Actually, of those two choices, I will go to a third choice. I hate
Yes.
I hate spring. Okay, that's
Because of the fact that you could go through innumerable days in a row of dull, dank, dreary, cloudy weather because of a high pressure cell to the north stuck, bringing you an onshore northeast or easterly airflow. Well, where you are, it's not.
oh,
That's not really the case.
actually it is the case here. Sometimes when you get when you get a cool wedge down the east side of the Appalachians, or if we get into one of these early moist tropical flows. I mean, I've sat here with cloudy days, 5, 6, 7 in a row. Of course, that has we can juxtapose that. That's a $9.99 word, Joe. We can juxtapose that
Juxtapose.
against the fact that I am now on my 34th consecutive day of no measurable rainfall, and I would say that probably 32 or 33 out of those 34 days have been uh, have been just absolutely gorgeous days. The fall here in the South is beautiful. I don't care about the leaves because I live in the woods, so I don't rake, I don't leaf blow. They just fall and they decompose when they ultimately disappear in the spring when the weather warms up. So I don't care about that. Uh, I've always liked the winter time for a number of different reasons. Although, and I do where I am, if I'm in the mountains here in North Georgia, we do get snow, and just above my elevation, the snowfall can be significant, 30 inches or more annually significant. But that doesn't bother me. But the spring, I cannot stand. The spring to me is, again, those endless days of cloudy. And down here, by the way, in the spring is severe weather and thunderstorm season, so that we have to deal with that. And it rains almost every day. The pollen, which starts earlier here, uh, not quite as early as it does downstate, where it's much warmer once you go down south of Atlanta. The pollen here, and the pollen doesn't really bother me personally, but it gets all over everything. And just like the leaves, I have to wash my car, rinse down my car every day, my truck, because there is pollen all over the place. And that kind of sums it up. So for me, it's spring that I do not like.
Okay.
Does that work for you?
You have 6 months then to get into the same mood that I'm in right now.
Mrs. Rayo says that you can't please everyone. These two sound miserable. Actually, no, I'm kind of happy. You might, I don't know if you can gather this from what I don't know if you can tell that I am a New York Giant fan. So I actually also have a beautiful New York Giants blanket that my daughter gave me for Christmas years ago, and I have my friend Duke the other day was cleaning out his closet, and he had this beautiful New York Giants scarf. So I even have a new scarf out of all of this. But again, I guess you could tell that I'm a Giant fan.
And my wife mentions the fact that we use our lawn tractor to mulch all of those leaves into the grass, and it works fairly well. Always has. In fact, what happens is that you turn the leaves, even as large as a hand, into nothing more than a bunch of confetti. However, on my lawn tractor, I've had this now since we moved up here 20 years ago. I've had on the lawn tractor 681 hours I've spent on that machine. And that means that I have spent a grand total of 28.375 days on that lawn tractor. That is almost a full month of my life that I'm never going to get back, just sitting there going around and round on it. And I've said this before, and I will do it one day. I have a few of my suits which are left over from my beleaguered and now completely disbanded television career in my closet. And one of these fine days, I'm going to wear one of those suits and get a fedora and put that on the top of my head. I'm going to make believe I'm Eddie Albert. And I'm going to go around my lawn dressed up in a three-piece suit. Keep Manhattan, just give me that countryside.
Whatever works, Joe. Whatever works. Yeah, your Oliver Wendell. You'll have your Oliver Wendell Douglas moment. So,
yes,
a very big and wonderful good morning to everybody on the chat board here on this Sunday morning. Thank you for taking your time out of your Sunday to spend it with us, hopefully with some brunch or a cup of coffee while you're watching. And also welcome to those of you who might be lurking in the background. Welcome to my YouTube channel. And just always.
And if I look a little tired this morning, it's because I was up until 2 a.m. this morning watching a baseball club that by far and away won more games than any other club, 111 wins. That was the Los Angeles Dodgers. And I sat there and watched as a third-rate team that didn't win more than 87 games, the San Diego Padres, upended the Dodgers in the playoffs. So the Padres are now moving on toward possibly the World Series, and the club that had more victories than any other team in the major leagues goes home.
Well, and Atlanta.
Joe, if you looked in Webster's dictionary and looked under the words shell shocked and the definition of shell shock, and you needed a picture, a photograph, all you needed to do was have a picture of one or several of the Dodgers sitting there in their dugout with their mouths open, watching as the Padres were celebrating on the field last night, saying, But we were supposed to go to the World Series, not them. And I'm sitting there at 2 o'clock in the morning saying, thank you, baseball, for because this is a crazy setup. Baseball, I presume, in order to get more revenue, to make more moolah, made more playoff teams. One day, Joe, it's going to happen. One day, a team is going to win the World Series and be declared the world champions, and they will have lost more games than they won. They will have a record of something like 78 and 89, and they will be declared the world champions because they were like the 12th round seed or the 12th round playoff team that just happened to get hot at the right time, upended everybody else. And to Yankee fans out there, all I say, I have just 2 words. I'm sorry.
Well, all right, let's finish up with the baseball because Mrs. Rayo is, screaming for us to get onto the weather. So let's just finish it with
But
this.
there's nothing to talk about the weather. You just said it yourself at the beginning of our show. You said everybody is enjoying wonderful weather, and I say to myself, well, don't worry about it. We're going to find a way to turn this show, which would normally be like only 10 minutes because there's not much to talk about weather-wise, we'll do a whole hour. And this is my way of trying to extend this to an hour, to add other facets to this conversation.
So let me just add that Atlanta lost, and they were a 100-win team, and the Yankees are a 100-win team, and they may lose. So it may just be all the way around, and it happens that way. But as I was saying to those that were new to our YouTube channel, my YouTube channel, welcome aboard. I hope you enjoyed the baseball rant. We do go on rants on occasion, and we do go off on tangents, but that's the fun of this show. And subscribe to my YouTube channel, and you will be notified every time we're on. And we're on a lot. We're on Monday through Thursdays at 7:35 p.m. Eastern Time. We are on Sundays at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. And on Friday and Saturday, Joe and I take a couple of days off to recharge. However, if there is a storm, we promise you with all our hearts, okay, both of them, that we will have a show on that particular Friday or Saturday or both. And on that note, Joe, the big story this morning, I think this might be the first one on the continental U.S., is the fact that on the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, we have winter storm warnings up for the first ones, I believe, and a few winter weather advisories that are peppering those winter storm warnings, and we could just take you to the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, and that includes the wonderful city of Marquette, and also Holton, Michigan, and Ironwood, Michigan. So just out of curiosity, I want to see what they are forecasting, and they are forecasting 4 to 8 inches along the spine of the Keweenaw Peninsula. Northwest to north winds gusting as high as 50 miles an hour. That is what they're doing for the city of Holton, Maine. And that, by the way, includes the cities of Copper Harbor and Hancock. And the other place that we were looking at, Marquette, which includes the city of L'Anse, L'Anse, Gwynn and Marquette counties. If our audience from L'Anse, I apologize. I know the whole town's watching. I apologize if I mispronounced it. Joe, they're going for accumulations there of 8 to 16, and in the higher terrain, a few miles inland from Lake Superior, with locally higher totals approaching 2 feet across the Michigami Highlands. Michigami. I apologize for those of you who live in the Highlands. Winds there gusting up to 45 miles an hour. And the other story, of course, it's the first one of the season, but we've got a pretty widespread freeze watches up tonight from the Appalachians, the west side of the Appalachians, west across the Ohio and Tennessee Valley. By the way, I have a freeze watch up here, Joe. They're forecasting here in Union County in northeast Georgia, they're forecasting a low, I believe, on Tuesday morning They were going. Now, I haven't been in the 20s yet, neither have you, but I'm going to beat you there if this forecast is correct.
Of course.
We're forecast upper 70s and low 80s today. My town, Blairsville, is supposed to get to 77, which means I'll probably get to about 72 or 3. Atlanta's forecast high today is 83. And in terms of what they are forecasting here over the next week, so they're going for 54 tonight with a chance for showers. Okay, let's see if I get them. 65 tomorrow with early showers and then sun. 29 for a low Monday night for a Tuesday morning low, and not getting out of the 40s here on Tuesday, Joe. 47. Now, if the town high is 47, here where I am, you have to subtract 5 or 6. So I will probably be down to maybe not get much above the low 40s. 25 Tuesday night, 53 for a high Wednesday, 26 Wednesday night, and 56 on Thursday. That is cold around here for the middle part of October.
Yeah, I'm probably going to see. We're probably here in Putnam Valley going to see freeze watches posted because it is going to get pretty darn cold here for a while. Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. No question that the seasons have now advanced into what we believe fall or autumn should be like. In fact, this might even be qualifying as unseasonably chilly. This is more like November as opposed to October. But nonetheless, it is going to be chilly. And this so far now, and we're only about halfway through the month, we're averaging about 4 degrees below normal. And I had said, if you remember a few days ago, Joe, I said, boy, 4 degrees below normal. We're probably heading for one of, if not the coldest October on record. However, in doing a check of the records, we saw that in the late 19th century, the 1880s, forgot the year, I think it was 1888 or 89, that we had an October that was as much as 8 degrees below normal. So this is cold, no question about it, and especially when you compare it to what we've been like in the tri-state area over the last 10 years. The last 10 years, we've had a whole series of unseasonably warm days, including 2017, which ran more than 6 degrees above normal. But this October, when it's all over said and done, is probably going to be very much the opposite, an unseasonably chilly month. So all the stuff that is in the nation's midsection, all the watches and warnings for freeze conditions, that eventually is going to shift eastward, and we'll be here probably for Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday of next week.
And on the satellite this morning, you can see everything is really pretty much getting dictated by this very deep upper trough that is sitting over the northern Great Lakes, and it's just sort of rotating around and strengthening. There's another arm that's coming down, and that's right in here. That is going to bring the coolest air, the leading edge of the coolest air, starting starting to come in Monday night, but really Tuesday, Wednesday into Thursday. Those are going to be that's the 3-day stretch that we're talking about. In the meantime, we do have some moisture that is streaming out of the southwest, some flashes of lightning going on in parts of Arizona and New Mexico, and also in parts of northeast Texas and Arkansas, and that moisture is heading east. And some of that is going to lift up, and I threw in the chance that there could be a couple of showers overnight into tomorrow morning from eastern Pennsylvania to southern New England, and maybe even in surrounding areas northeast as you move your way up into northern New England. It could be a bit more, but overall, not as picture perfect as yesterday was, which was a really gorgeous day. But because we do have some patchy clouds running out ahead here, but on the whole, it's a good finish to the weekend. And we don't have any big storms on the horizon, but we do have these things going on with that colder, dry flow coming out of Canada in control through this coming week.
It was a gorgeous day yesterday. In fact, may I go so far as to say that yesterday might have been among the top 5 best days of 2022. Just a beautiful day, blue sky, bright sun. temperatures which were mostly in the lower 70s, low humidity. Couldn't have asked for a better day than what you had yesterday. Today, stepped outside, we already have like I'd say about 80 to 90% of the sky is clouded over, but still it's comfortable out there. And we are expecting a little bit of precipitation arriving overnight tonight, and then more precip or in and around the area scattered about. But I mean, I'm not talking about a washout, but there'll be some showers in and around our region tomorrow. Kind of the payback for what is turning out to be a very lovely fall weekend.
And on the radar, with those high clouds that are running out ahead of that moisture coming out of the southwest, the radar's picking up some stuff aloft. I not from what I could. None of this is reaching the ground.
That's probably what's translating into the clouds that we have around the area right now, but no precip coming out of those clouds.
Right, and then you got a gap. So we're okay here in the northeast and northern mid-Atlantic states pretty much for the rest of the day. But you can see the moisture that's pushing up from the southwest across Tennessee, even into eastern Tennessee, some scattered showers in eastern Kentucky, some stronger thunderstorms down in northeast Texas, and we'll swing it back, and actually quite a bit of rain in North Texas on the radar, also in through New Mexico, in south central Texas, or maybe we'll call this actually central Texas. I don't know. I always get confused about Texas because it's so darn big. But there's quite a bit of moisture there, and we even have a little severe thunderstorm warning there in a county in southwestern New Mexico. The Storm Prediction Center today has two small areas of risk, one in southwest Texas, the other in northeastern Tennessee, southeastern Kentucky, the western part of Virginia, and southern West Virginia. And then tomorrow, we are looking at a marginal risk from extreme southeastern Virginia, in coastal North and South Carolina, Georgia, down into northeast Florida, and also South Texas under a marginal risk. And then after that, just quiet on Tuesday into Wednesday. Leftover risk for a thunderstorm early in Maine, and also since this front is actually going to get all the way down through Florida, we're going to see maybe some thunderstorm risk on Tuesday in the state of Florida. And as far as rainfall is concerned, the 7-day rainfall, Joe, is still, not really showing very much. Although in eastern Maine, they could see another 1.5 to 2.5 inches with these weather fronts coming through. And it looks like in the darker green, most of New England is probably along the lines of 1/10 to maybe 3 or 4/10 with the 1/2 inch over southeastern New England. Otherwise, it's pretty dry from southern New England and southern New England and the Hudson Valley, southwest across the Ohio Valley. A little action around the Great Lakes, and some of that's going to be lake effect snow this week. And we also see ample moisture in the western Gulf that expands up into West Texas, and some arms of precip coming into the Pacific Northwest as we may see the trough go in the west for a short period of time. But overall, I mean, nothing major here. No tropical storms, no hurricanes, just typical stuff.
Yeah, and Alfred K. Phillips, our friend up in Alaska, mentioning here that he says Joe and Joe will have baseball-sized snowflakes soon, a fluffy blizzard. I don't know about baseball size. I know that sometimes in certain situations, when you have very cold air anchored over a specific area and massive amounts of warm air advection running over the top of that sometimes you can have snowflakes the size of silver dollars. I don't know about baseball size. He said, like 2-foot snowflakes fell already here, I think, LOL.
Well, I will tell you that I have seen I would say pancake-sized snowflakes on Long Island. That's happened a couple of times. Some of the bigger snowflakes that I've seen were, I remember, in I believe it was either in the winter of 2013 or 2014 or 2014-15, where every snowstorm that we had, and we had a number of them that produced 6 inches or more. Every one of them came with temperatures in the teens, and in a few of those cases, we had temperatures in the low teens, and one that it was basically single digits all day, and I remember it was 6 degrees, Joe, with the moderate to heavy snow falling. Those were some of the biggest flakes that those rank among some of the biggest flakes that I've ever seen.
Yeah. Yeah, that really, folks, is a true blizzard. You know, they kind of tempered the criteria for a blizzard. There used to be a strict temperature rule with blizzards where it had to be, I think, below 20 degrees, and then they finally let up a little bit and they said, all right, okay, so it's snowing and it's heavy snow and the visibility for 3 hours is below a mile. All right, it could be above 20 degrees and we could still call it a blizzard. So. But really, what you just mentioned, Joe, with 6 degrees and large flakes falling heavily, or whatever, that is indeed a true. That's what they call out in the plains. They call snowstorms like that. They call them the Wyoming screamers out there.
Yes.
Woo, woo.
Well, let's see what we can find here as far as snow is concerned. By the way, just to mention to everybody, because a number of you have mentioned this to me, snow cover, Siberian snow cover growth, and all the rest of it. We're now halfway through the month, so I think we can start looking at that with a little bit more importance. So tomorrow night, assuming I have the time to do it tomorrow, and I should, I'll get some maps up and we could talk about it. Judah Cohen tweeted about it and put a chart up over the weekend on Twitter. So I'll get it all, try to get it all together tomorrow, and we can talk about it on tomorrow's show. In the meantime, we have a pattern here that is something that I've said, if you've had this in January or February, you don't like cold weather, you would be miserable with this very cold flow coming out of northwestern Canada, right south into the Mississippi Valley and then turning east. This is what the upper air looks like this morning, or looked like this morning. Big, strong ridge right along 50 West, building all the way up to Greenland, and mostly deep troughing from the Aleutians down to the longitude of the big island of Hawaii. You can see the big upper high that's up in the Pacific Northwest. This is a very amplified pattern, and when you get an amplified pattern, you move air masses around from where they usually are to places where, let's say, they're not supposed to be, at least this time of year. This trough in the east is strengthening as we go through this week, and the coldest of this cold air is going to be Tuesday night, probably through the daytime, Thursday and Thursday night. Now, it pulls up as we head into Friday, and you see the bottom part of that trough kind of drops down off the southeast coast. That trough pulls up, and we go into a southwest flow, and temporarily, we talked about this last week, Joe, that the pattern might, I think, briefly relax. I thought the idea was that the pattern might briefly relax and then maybe fire up again as we move through the end of the month. And I noticed that the runs on Friday and Saturday were almost implying that, well, maybe it might be relaxed longer than that. But they've kind of come back around today. And if we look through the long range after next weekend, and we're going to probably get into some warmer weather next weekend and beyond. But here comes another deep trough all of a sudden on day 9 and 10, and it swings through the eastern states, and a big block develops. Interestingly enough, you get a big blocking high that develops over Greenland there toward the end of the month. So another deep trough by the end of the month into the eastern states. So it looks like it's going to be a temporary relaxation before we revert to what we've been. We come back to what we've been seeing since the arrival of the fall season back around September 22nd.
Yep. And like I said, it seems to have swept over or is about to sweep over us very quickly. I mean, we have really not had here in the tri-state area much in the way of true fall weather. It has been cool. We've had some chilly nights. But what's coming our way now, we're going to leap over early fall and go right into, as I said, November-like weather, it would seem, for Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday of this upcoming week. So batten down and get ready.
By the way, I've pulled up the Pacific because I wanted to see whether uh, we've got recurving typhoons. Because whenever we have recurring, well, not all the, but most of the time when we have recurring typhoons, they energize storms up in the over the Aleutians or over the Bering Sea. We saw that in September when this whole thing got started. And I'm going to go back. I'm just curious now. I'm going to go back to Friday afternoon's run. Just want to see something here. Okay, well, I can tell you right now, and maybe this is what we're going to have to look for. Okay, this is perhaps why the models may have switched from carrying on this warmer pattern to going back to what we had. The recent runs are taking what looks like one typhoon toward the Philippines, then turning it northward and passing it east of Japan. Well, it gets lost because then another typhoon forms, and that one recurves east of Japan and heads up toward the Gulf of Alaska, and then still another system that follows up on that. So that I think could be the reason, Joe, here that we could see. Yeah, well, here's one. Here's a typhoon in about 5 or 6 days that recurves east of Taiwan and then goes up to the northeast. And then you got a second one that follows here that goes up to the northeast. It energizes things in the Gulf of Alaska. The reason why that's important, by the way, is because it tends to make troughs, it tends to reinforce troughs right along the longitude of Hawaii. Okay. And that causes ridging in the west, and that causes a corresponding trough in the eastern United States. So I guess the key to the forecast in the longer term, the latter part of this month, and maybe going into the month of November, because the 384-hour now, Joe, is November the 1st, will be to watch the West Pacific to see if these typhoons are real and if they are going to be recurving east of Japan and east of China and going up to Alaska and the Aleutians and reinforcing the pattern here in the eastern part of the United States.
Well, we'll see. This is the time of the year when these systems, these tropical systems out in the far western Pacific, do have a say, an ultimate say in the weather pattern here in North America with time, not instantaneous, but over a span of maybe a week or two. Some weird pattern will shape up here in the United States or in Canada, and we could always look back and point to a specific disturbance. Say, oh, that was the tropical system, that was the typhoon that affected the Philippines or affected Japan or whatever, and now it's screwing up the weather here in this part of the country. So we'll see how this all pans out. Of course, now you look at the calendar, Joe. It is now mid-October. So if any of these systems do have a say in our weather down the road, it might be, around Halloween or maybe Election Day that we might see some unusual things happening on the weather charts here in our neck of the woods.
And as far as the week ahead is concerned, of course, you could see on the GFS, it really isn't a whole lot in terms of precip. You can also see that I know the snow lovers are all kind of glued to that blue up in Michigan, but there's a low that's going to be deepening over Lake Huron, and they're going to get a nice stiff northerly wind off the relatively warm Lake Superior at this time of year, and of course that's going to energize the lake effect right into Tuesday, and then even some lake effect in northwest PA and western New York. Although we'll have to see whether the warmer right now Lake Erie and Lake Ontario are still warm, and this is a cold. This is certainly a chilly air mass for this time of year, but it's not truly a cold air mass. So the air is the temperatures are going to be kind of questionable as to whether they could support snow showers or not. They might actually do a little bit of both, where you get rain and snow showers. But look at this on Thursday, Joe. This is Thursday morning. There's hardly a drop of precip anywhere in the United States, in any of the 48 states here of the continental U.S. Nothing in terms of precip. And that actually continues for the most part into Friday. Friday, look at it again. Friday afternoon, it's just virtually bone dry everywhere. And after that, of course, with the high going out, we'll probably warm up next weekend. And if we get these freezes, I guess technically we will be able to call this a little bit of Indian summer weather through the weekend and into early next week, the week of the 24th. And here comes your cold front along about Tuesday with some showers and maybe a rumble or two of thunder. There's also, by the way, the GFS wants to have some kind of hurricane going into Mexico, touching southern tip of Baja, and that moisture getting down into Texas. That's so far, that's so long term right now. We'll see if that's even real. And then you start to get these cold shots coming down from Canada again, one after another, as we move into the month of November. So uh, quiet times this week, weather-wise. So we're going to have to find other things to talk about. And as I said, we'll focus. We'll take a look tomorrow at just where the snow cover is as far as North America, as far as Asia is concerned, and Siberian snow cover growth and all the rest of it. We'll do that on tomorrow night's show.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we're home free this upcoming week, folks. Just as a note here in terms of the schedule, we'll be on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, all at 7:35 in the evening. So set your calendar, and we'll be happy to have all of you out there this upcoming week. Not much, but again, not much to talk about, Joe. I mean, like, check out the National Hurricane Center website, and you can see that it is devoid of any tropical activity. No hurricanes, no tropical storms, no tropical depressions. It looks like it's going to be quiet for at least the next 48 hours and may very well be quiet for much of this week.
Yeah. We're up to the K storm, which is 11. So we need 3 more names to get out of the way and a month and a half to do it in order to get it to 14. Not that I'm rooting for that to happen. It's just that with this La Nina year, I think a lot of people thought that this would be one of those years where we'd get to 19 or 20 or 21 named storms. That I think it's pretty safe to say, Joe, that's not going to happen.
No, I don't think so. Now I may be wrong, but I agree with you. I don't think that's gonna transpire.
By the way, my neighbor, I just noticed this. So this is where I live, okay, folks, and we have 2 of them, not one but 2 of them, Mr. Yogi Bear and Mrs. Bear. And look, I mean, this is a great shot. Look at this. This is on where I live. There's a common area, and this is on the common area. This picture was actually taken back on the 9th, so this was a week ago. So we've got bears lurking, and if you look closely, by the way, this particular bear has been tagged. So they are monitoring this bear to see how he behaves, and they do a lot of that down here, folks. They
now,
really.
Is this picture taken with a telephoto lens? I mean, I don't know if I want to be that close to a bear to take a picture.
I believe I have to ask my neighbor if this was the same one that he showed me the other day that was taken. I believe that a friend of his has a. Oh, by the way, he says this is one of the smaller bears that the DNR here has a tracking collar on. I believe that someone has a deer blind because it's deer season here and deer hunting season. So someone has a deer blind, and I'm guessing that they probably took the picture from the deer blind, and hopefully the bear didn't really, see the deer blind, because then there might be a problem. But yes, Bill, he's got a collar on him. This guy's I have to tell you, the state of Georgia, I am so impressed by how they take care of their state parks here. They're pristine. They are absolutely pristine. I rarely see anything in terms of You always have some moron that's going to throw their trash, anywhere but in the receptacle that's provided, because they don't want to carry it to said receptacle. But on the whole, I mean, I'm really impressed by how clean these parks and how well maintained these parks are here.
By the way, the Yogi Bear's girlfriend, I don't think Yogi is married, but Yogi's girlfriend's name is Cindy.
Oh, that's right. Yes, Cindy. I remember.
Yes.
Yeah. Um,
Hey there, it's Yogi Bear.
exactly. So anyhow, I think we can pretty much wrap the show up tonight. Today, it's not night; it's coming up
Today.
on lunchtime. I have I put it in the oven this morning at what was it, about a little after 6 a.m. this morning. I have a nice big pork roast, slow cooking in the oven, and I also made some pizza dough before the show started today. So that's rising now on the top of the stove. It's sitting in its bowl and it's covered and it's nice and warm and it's rising. So that's going to be my lunch. Let me just, by the way, also Joe, Izzy D hitting super chat today. Thank you, Izzy, for hitting the tip jar. And other than that, I may go out walking for a little while today. Otherwise, I have no plans other than to perhaps watch a little bit of football.
And good luck to your Giants, who are trying to win, believe it or not, their 5th win of the season. How many of you out there would have predicted that out of the first 5 games of 2022 that the Giants would win 4 out of 5 of those games? And in fact, even that the Jets have more wins than losses. I mean, this is a bizarro football season here in New York, Joe.
Yeah, no, it certainly is. By the way, Izzy has a question. How cold front versus coastal interact many times? Cold front shoves coastal further out, just like what we look to be seeing tonight. What has to happen for merging? I'm not 100% sure what you mean by merging, other than if you think that a front comes through and slows down, and then a wave develops. So if that's what you're referring to, you need to have, the upper flow has to kind of come to a grinding halt overhead, and keep the front from moving much further to the east and slowing it down to a degree that kind of happens here, because we're seeing, this what's happening tonight. It just kind of gets hung up there for a little while because it's waiting for the upper trough to swing through tomorrow night. That produces another round, perhaps, of some showers when that comes in with the colder air, and then it moves along. So you're sort of seeing it today, but there's no real energy, and there's no real energy. What I mean by that is there's no really standout short wave that's going to create a deepening wave that's going to move on up to the northeast. This is just sort of, you know, I guess we could just call it typical frontal stuff that's going on.
I think over this upcoming week, what we're going to see is basically, I'll put that in quote marks, ladies and gentlemen, basically, we're going to see high pressure in control for much of the next 5 to 7 days. However, every once in a while, there's going to be a disruption of high pressure. One of these waves, these fast-moving waves, these fast-moving frontal lines, moving on through, bringing a little bit of cloud cover, a little bit of precipitation, but moving fast enough so that they're in, they're out, and once again, high pressure tries to build up and in, and then here comes yet another wave moving through with, again, a little bit of a disruption. No big storm, just a little disruption of cloud cover and precipitation. And I'd say, Joe, that looking at this week, we'll have one of those disruptions move through during Wednesday. We'll have another one moving through along about Friday, and we'll have yet another one move through maybe sometime late Saturday or early Sunday of next week. But more often than not, over the next 7 days, we'll be looking at rather decent weather. A chilly, cold, if you will, for some, but decent weather here in the New York tri-state area.
And actually, for a good portion of the country, it's going to be like that. No major storms around. So everybody, have a great Sunday. Joe and I will be back here tomorrow at 7:35 p.m. Eastern Time. So we hope to see you then. Bye-bye.
Bye, folks.